departmental budget discussion. I did see that we were joined this morning by Councilman John Cooper, who's here, former chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. I'm Mayor David Briley, and I'm joined this morning by the Chief of Staff here in the Mayor's office, Emily Pizzini, and by the city's Finance Director, Talia Lomax O'Neill. Before we jump into this year's budget, just want to circle back and talk a little bit about last year's budget. As you may remember, Sheriff Hall, the circumstances of last year's budget were unique in many respects, but during the course of this year, through our anticipated savings that we've done and through some revenue growth that we've seen as a city, we're in a position this year to offer the 3% COLA, as well as steps and open range increases to Metro employees. So everybody will get a pay raise this year if you work for Metro. This morning, our next budget discussion is with Davidson County Sheriff Darren Hall. I see that he is joined by two individuals, if you'll introduce them. But before you do that, I just want to applaud the Sheriff's Office for the work that it is doing to incorporate mental health into the overall endeavor of the Sheriff's Office. I think we all know that that's an important part of keeping people out of jail in the long run is improving their mental health. And as Sheriff Hall has been known to say, his job is not to arrest the person, it's to arrest the problem. And so I applaud him for taking that approach and look forward to working with him in that regard, both this year and in the future. With that, Sheriff Hall, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you on behalf of the employees for the raise conversation and to ease their mind, and hopefully the council support as we go forward for that. For sure, it's an important part of our organization, obviously keeping them paid, and I'm very happy to hear that. With me today is John Hudson. He's our Chief of Administration, and Pete Lutz, who's our Director of Finance in the Sheriff's Office. I also have our Chief of Staff, Carla West, and our Chief of Corrections, Tony Wilkes, has also joined us here this morning. It's really, I don't think it's a surprise, but the Sheriff's Office has been in major transition for the last 3 years. I have told people we don't have an inmate in a bed that it was designed to house anywhere in the city in the last 24 months, trying to get ready for the future, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I think, as it relates to housing the population in the right location. But our budget is also in that situation, has been for the last, 24 months or so, and we've worked with Talia and others and yourself trying to patch this thing together, because, quite frankly, this is all unfortunately kind of a transitional phase for everything. We've had some issues and incidents I mentioned to you, and I came and talked to Talia back several months ago. I appreciate everybody's understanding. In my 30 years here, the more difficult time inside of our facilities was the last 6 months, and that's not anybody's fault. It's just that the design and the type of scenarios we were dealing with became very problematic. And so our staff, I think, have done a fantastic job. They're often underappreciated, not necessarily by people in this room, but by the community. And I've told folks that we're measured by failure sometimes, and if you don't hear a lot about us, we're doing a pretty good job. But they deserve credit, and I really, really appreciate the work they do every day and helping our community stay safe and also change the lives of people who are in a very difficult time in their life. But in the big picture, we expect our new operation across the street, we call it the downtown complex as we speak, we expect to receive the keys to that facility in September. I think everything is on schedule for that. But we need several months, I'd say 2 months or so, to learn all the mechanics. There's a lot of software, computer software, security software, and quite frankly, the dynamics of that building are going to be new and we hope very beneficial to us. So if we receive the keys somewhere in September, we're expecting 60 days or so to transition and train in the building, and then to open it, as you and I would call the booking room and kind of the detention part of it, sometime before Thanksgiving. And again, I'll be able to report better as we get closer to that. But as you mentioned a minute ago, there's another phase of that building that we're going to wait a month or two even later to get good at the detention side. The mental health part we expect to open in the new part of the new year. Have a much better gauge of that as we get closer. As you know, we've never done that before. Very excited about it. I went and met with the new director of health last week because of the health of our inmate population, and I was very impressed with her, and I think we had a very good conversation about the future. I did mention to her that I would mention here today that a part of their budget, as you guys know, is a correctional health. There is a procurement for that health that we've worked with them on that's out, or
It will be out in a couple of weeks.
within a couple of weeks, and that procurement will have it broken into two pieces for the first time ever, what you and I would call the detention health care for the inmate population, and then what we call the behavioral care center, which is the mental health piece. And so, gosh, I forget her name, but the new director of health, Wendy Long, thank you very much. We communicated that whether it's up here together or in the council meetings together to explain, what we're doing and why it may look a little differently in our process. But we're real excited about that. The opportunity to divert people who are ill out of the criminal justice system is a goal of ours, and I really appreciate you being there to open the building, and I hope, to the groundbreaking, and as we open the building to see what it really can do to change our community. Someone in this job one of these days will be up here with a lot fewer people going in the criminal justice system, and that's what we should be doing, and I'm hopeful we'll see that as we go forward. Another conversation we had, and really has a budget impact. I've been here 30 years. We have never done what I call a staffing analysis. That's done in our business all over the country. I met with you a year and a half ago, or early in your term, and said we'd like to do that. It really is not tied to the new building. It doesn't have to be at all, because we're going to still have staff scattered on what we call the Southeast Complex when this is open. This is not going to be the only jail we will run. So we hired a consulting group who I was hoping to have the report by now. We will have it, we believe, later this week, but we were having to give some numbers, and so that's what we've used as estimates after having conversations. What this is really about, the new building is more efficiently designed. It will take fewer people to supervise the same number of inmates that we used to have in the building, so it's more efficient. But what we need to do in our agency is to have our staffing analysis done to determine what do you need to relieve those people to continue to make sure people have their off days, and overtime is not a huge burden to the individual or to the budget, quite frankly. We haven't done that in 30 years. There's a thing called the relief factor in our world, and that means what percentage of an employee do you need to make sure you have relief every time someone leaves. That's what we needed to study. That's what we wanted someone to help us understand. We since I've been in this job, we've awarded Veterans Day, which is a great thing, paid family leave, which is a great thing, I believe, FMLA, and all sorts of changes that have happened. When those changes happen to most organizations, it doesn't impact them as much as it does us. We must have certain staff assigned. So what this really does is tell us as a government, how many people does it take to cover the post inside these institutions that we're running? And so that's what the report is going to tell us. We have had conversation with them. I will be happy to I met with Shannon Hall. We will be happy to give you the actual documents that will be provided to us. But we've estimated what that number would be. It is not for a new building. I don't want to confuse people. This building isn't costing you more money to run. But when we give paid family leave and we give holidays like Veterans Day, it increases our cost in ways because of our relief of that. So what we've done, we've proposed, and we need additional positions to cover what we call our relief factor agency-wide. This number is in there as what we consider to be half of the year, because we would open our new facility in December-ish, we're estimating, and so there's no need for some of that costing or the budget for the entire year. But moving forward, that would help us relieve the overtime. One thing we did 4 or 5 years ago was we allowed the staff to vote on what type of shifts do they want to work. They work 12-hour shifts. That's very different than a lot of places. They voted to do that. It's a better shift for them as far as driving downtown and uniform costs and daycare and things that they may have to spend. But it is difficult to work overtime on 12-hour shifts, because literally we can't work them at double. And so what this allows us to do is to hire people to relieve them when they're off of work instead of paying time and a half for that same service. So that is what we call the CO position in the staffing analysis number. It is for half a year, because we wouldn't need any of those until we get the facilities opened up. Several other things as adjustments in our budget are really contractual. About 7 or 8 years ago, Believe it or not, the city charter was amended to allow the sheriff's office to take over security in government buildings. We were doing it anyway, but we eventually, through the legal department, put it to the vote of the voters to allow the charter to be amended. So we oversee security in virtually every building in the city, except water. That's the only one that we don't oversee. But virtually every other building, the contracts for those security services run through the sheriff's office. It's awarded to a vendor. It was just renewed a year ago, and these increases are a part of that contract. It's not new positions. If you'll look at the full year contract price increase, it's a $525,000. That is a contractual rate increase. It's nothing new. It's just the rate of that contract. The next three, and I'm looking at a list. I think we're on this. Okay. The next three things are services to be provided for entities. For example, the very first one is the Ford Ice Center out in Bellevue. That is a security priced for the government to oversee the contract. We tell you, after we talked, we went and communicated both with General Services and with the Predator situation. My understanding is that was contractually negotiated with them that we would, the government, provide that for them in Bellevue, although we don't do it on the Hickory Hollow complex. Kind of weird, but that was contractually, that's where we are. That's the government's price to do what's contractually negotiated. The next part of that is the Family Safety Center. That's to provide security for them for the half of the year. We had the other half last year put in there for 6 months. So that's just their security. And then the other piece of that is a fringe part of my understanding is as we do each year. So that's not new services. The Sheriff's Office is actually providing. It's really these other entities who need security provided by a contractual obligation. Yeah.
What are the assumptions around timing of security? Is it 7 days a week, 24/7?
Yeah, and it's going based on, and some of that, for example, Diane Lancet, that we worked with her for a year and a half really to get her plans, and 6 months of that was funded last year. This is the second half of that. At the Fort Ice thing, because we would be doing both internally and externally, that's why that price is what it is, but it's what our security assessment would. What's that? Yeah, our security staff member works for us, evaluated the contract, and went out and came up with what would be needed on the campus for them.
Okay.
And we do it.
PS4 will be doing the
Yes.
security uses the contract
Yes.
that flows through the sheriff's department.
Yes. As it is in the courthouse
Right.
and with many others, it's just an additional.
Just like that.
Yeah. You know, this is not a solution today, but I would like to improve this whole thing. One of the things that I don't think we do well, and I'm just saying, because over the years something has been added, now it's Fort Ice and these other places. We need to do a better job of kind of bringing all that group in the room and saying, what are your needs going forward? This stuff is not. I had a call yesterday from the courts saying they needed security, and it's just not very clear and not very well done, quite frankly. And that's some on us, and I think some of us just getting a better understanding. I'd like to come forward one year and say, here's the increased security cost, and here's where it would go. Instead, we're kind of contractually tied to the Predators here. The courts are needing this, and we're working with Family Safety. So that's in our time in Metro, 10 years ago, the Sheriff's Office did not oversee any of that. But slowly but surely, and I think it's the right place for it. It just needs to be collectively done in a better way. And in the contract, we are the ones who negotiate and work to get the best vendor, but we're not very good with the government as a whole pulling together what their needs are and being able to represent that. Quite frankly, I'd like for them to be in the room to defend why they need it if there are questions, because that's not our expertise. And that's primarily the budget adjustment changes. Like I said, 3/4 of that is really security contractual issues, but the one we're concerned about is having the staffing not only hired or budgeted, but hired and trained and ready to open the building and be able to relieve those staff that are working all over the city for us. And so I don't think I need to tell you, it's well documented. Recruitment in our industry is very tough. Chief Anderson and I talk a lot about this subject, and it is a ongoing challenge to find quality people and then keep them. And so we have two challenges. We're begging and needing the money, and then we also need the people. And we've got to find a way to get and recruit really good people and keep them. And so it's a challenging time when the city's doing as well as Nashville is.
You want to talk about your Blue Ribbon Commission?
Oh, well, sure will. And again, this was a new exercise, so we discussed, and again, I went off some advice of others and said, well, if you have some ideas of things that might save the city, present it. And so we discussed these. This is always fascinating. I'm not a lawyer, but I get sued enough that I feel like I should be. So I defend myself enough. How about that? But one of the things, believe it or not, over the years it has always been toyed with is that when the charter was written in '63, a lot of things about law enforcement in schools and so forth were written, but I don't think was very clear in some ways. And due to some lawsuits and other challenges just in the last 5 years or so, the question of what is the role and what can the sheriff do and what shouldn't they do, some people think, I love to hear some of the interesting theories, but the bottom line, the Supreme Court of Tennessee just 6 or 7 years ago said basically that the voters did not want duplication. That's really what it is. Some people say, well, you don't have these authorities. Well, you can't take authority away from a state constitutional office. You just can't. But because they don't want duplication, it forces a question. So what does the sheriff do? What does the police do? It's the question I get everywhere I go. And really, in our city, the sheriff's office does all of the civil law enforcement functions. It's orders of protection, evictions, divorces, garnishments. I mean, we're serving 200,000 of those papers for the courts every day, and we do all sorts of other civil work. Chief Surpass, believe it or not, is the first person who said from out of town, obviously, this makes no sense. Why in the world wouldn't y'all be doing traffic? Traffic is a civil event. I mean, he told me there's 110 accidents a day. I'm not sure of that. And 95% of those are you bumped into my car. There's not a crime. But you and I, taxpayers, are paying a fully sworn police officer to do civil paperwork. And I'm not speaking for them. Most of them hate it. It's an expensive way to do civil work. And so this is not something I'm begging to do, but the city, I think, would be better off to say, wait a minute, why does the police do a lot of civil work? We're not overdoing criminal work. And I'm just using that as an example. And it would take an extensive look and say, look, wait a minute, how much money is it costing the police to pay people to fill out civil documents on accidents? And by the way, you have 100 warrant officers from the sheriff's office doing that civil work all over the city. And I think if it were to be considered, there's significant savings because, quite frankly, we don't make the money the police officers make, nor should we. But we should be able to do that civil type of work. And so what is thought here is the city look at it and say, what if you moved non-criminal traffic to a division called the sheriff's office? You may say, well, wow, that's kind of weird. Well, here's what's really strange. If you were to call today and ask for and get an order of protection from someone in your family or whatever, we are the person who drive up to your house and serve you of that. And then so when we pull away, if you violate that, the police pull in. And so it's very similar. If we were doing a civil accident and we see drugs in the vehicle, we call the police. We do that every day in our normal work because they would handle the criminal side when we're doing the civil side. Same thing would occur in an accident. And so it's not something I sit here and dream of doing in my life, but I think as a city, it is the right consideration to put on the table and talk about. I think there is significant savings because of, quite frankly, the dollars that it costs to pay a fully sworn police officer to fill out and, quite frankly, to get to the accident. So that was it's not a detailed review of it, but I really think there's significant savings if you wanted to do that. 10 years ago or more, I had an intern from Trevecca working for us, and I was really interested in why people in our world didn't take their retirement. Everybody likes buyouts. I never like buyouts. I don't think they're very good for people typically. And I was curious. And so we did research for 2 years, and we learned why people don't take retirement when they're eligible. It's 2 reasons. One is they don't want to lose their identity and they don't want to lose their income. So we created and designed a program back then called STEP. It's Starting to Enjoy Your Pension. And what that means is in the sheriff's office, if you are retirement eligible, whatever that 10 years or 15 or 20, and you want to take your pension, we agree to hire you back at your hourly rate that you're making today. So what that means is you're going on pension, your health care and your pension costs are being covered by a separate fund, and operationally what the sheriff's office is paying you is the hours you're going to work. You can only work 19 and a half, We have nearly 80 people on that. It saves us nearly $4 million a year out of our one budget. If the government ever said, let's adopt that and make that, and it would take leadership, it's not something that some department heads would be tickled with at first because it takes work. We work hard at it. If you interviewed everyone in our agency, the happiest people working there are those 80 people. They love it. They are, quite frankly, in a better frame of mind to come and do the work. They have their identity still. They're still a part of us, and their income is not reduced hardly at all. So if someone took the energy to review metro-wide what that would save, it is significant money. And again, it doesn't necessarily, it would just take an effort and probably across the government. We also mentioned revenue increases. There's some potential there. The civil process I talked about earlier, we can explore with Mr. Rooker's office and others. It's one of those delicate things, want to be careful about, but it's something we mentioned we would or could explore.
Attorneys are not required to use the sheriff for civil service anymore, right? So you kind of have a market force out there that sort of keeps that price down.
Yeah, there's a private process service bill that passed, 8 or 10 years ago. And at first we were very worried, would it really dramatically? It does not decrease a lot of our workload. Our numbers haven't gone up or down. It's about $200,000 a year. And I'm really proud, and I hear attorneys say this all the time, they'd much prefer us do it. But there are the private process folks doing it. I think they do a decent job at it. But we were worried, would it decline and obviously reduce our total operation? But it is out there, is available in other counties, quite frankly, where the sheriff does full law enforcement. It is so low on the scale that private process has taken off. Here, we focus on it. I think we're really good at it, and I think it makes a quality service, and therefore the typical case, I think, is still going through us. But didn't know much more to do other than to propose those. It would take a lot of work, especially some of these comprehensive ones. And I think it would clearly take leadership if you wanted to make efforts in some of these ways. But we did as we were asked, I think, to propose it. All right.
My question has to do with correctional officer pay.
Okay.
The reason I wanted to ask about this is because the governor has proposed some significant increases for their correctional officers because they're saying they're having a hard time recruiting and keeping folks. I don't think that you have a similar issue over there. And I just was wondering if you just speak to that just a little bit.
I've never done this before, but kudos to the governor, by the way. I mean, and what I do for a governor is first few weeks to talk about reentry, to visit prisons and hire and pay more for correctional officers. Kudos to the governor. That needs to be done. We have a class right now of 20 officers. We're going to hire another one in June. I'll walk in there virtually the first morning and introduce myself, and I'll say, how many of you from the Department of Corrections? And it's difficult to watch multiple hands go up because you can't blame them. That pay was poverty level. And we can pick and choose. The difficulty, though, is the city is also going to have to deal with this as we go forward. And you may not realize this is state law to be a correctional officer in any jail in our state. And in 2006, the law changed. And I say this all the time, President Bush couldn't work in the jail. If you've ever been convicted of anything, forget anything. It's a silly law. You cannot work in a jail. It was an overreaction to the trooper scandal of having a criminal history. And so one of the difficulties that we're going to face is the requirements to work there, and the pay obviously is never going to reach what you and I would call the police pay. But we're going to have to be careful. The police pay in our city, starting out and where we started, is what happens is that margin grows dramatically. And it grows for different reasons. Their overtime is a part of their process. We manage overtime very aggressively. And so it's just something that worries me. I think the point is the governor's doing the right thing. It should help our overall, but it worries me as to our recruiting ability. Right. Yeah, we're in Clarksville, we're in Memphis recruiting. We're everywhere we can be because and I think we're going to have to be creative. I've talked with our staff every Monday, and one of the things we're looking at is even hiring at a much younger age. Maybe not in the institutions in those assignments, but going into high schools and say upon graduation, if you can come and work in a position that's non-inmate related, promote into those things. Just anything we can do to try to get someone. I love to say this, but we have one of the lowest turnover rates in the country. We are, this week that we're sitting in is Service Appreciation Week. Yesterday we were serving food with Chef Manit, with the show Chopped. She was here, and we have a health fair all day yesterday. Today is pizza day. We deliver pizzas to all of our staff 24 hours a day. Tomorrow's awards dinner. Take everyone who's receiving their pin. We do an extremely aggressive way of trying to make our staff feel heard. Turnover in this line of work in this state's 40%. Ours is somewhere around 9%. We work extremely hard at recruiting really good people and trying to keep them, but we're challenged by things. And a lot of our folks transfer to Metro Police as well when they want to move over. So it's our biggest challenge, keeping and finding really good people. Yeah.
Well, I just want to applaud you for the blue ribbon recommendations. You and I have talked about the STEP thing before, and I've actually started a conversation with the fire department about that, because they have, I think, 250 firefighters who are retirement eligible right now. Wow. And so I thought it might be a good place to start that conversation, but I do think it is something we ought to look at closely. And then on the civil enforcement, I have actually, even though I didn't know you were thinking about it, I have talked to the chief about it briefly, about some way to have and I was thinking at that point about a second tier within the department of people who were not necessarily trained at the same level, or to go out and do that kind of enforcement. And so, especially with the difficulty we're having recruiting police officers, it might make it easier for them to do the more intensive training part of the job, the investigating crimes and arresting people for crimes. So I think both those are something we certainly should look at closely, and we'll follow up on those.
Okay.
So, but certainly understand the circumstances facing the Sheriff's Department in the coming year, and we're just continue to work on the budget, and totally understand the requests that y'all have made.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.